So, college football's ultimate game of will they, won't they seems to be coming to a close. And of course, today we're talking about Texas and Oklahoma trying to leave the Big 12 and gain entry to the SEC. Because just last week, a report surfaced that the 2024 date that so many Texas and Oklahoma fans had hoped for looked to be dead in the water, and it looked like they would have to wait until their contract expired with the Big 12 in 2025. However, then last night happened, and a report came out that states Texas and Oklahoma can get to the SEC by 2024, and all they have to do is pay a combined $100 million, something we have got to break down. Before we can, as always, y'all know the drill, I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited that Texas and Oklahoma look to get to the SEC by 2024? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below, as those interactions are massive to content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained, and we're on a push to 20,000 subscribers. I'd love to have you a part of this unbelievable community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And what a storyline this has been since the very beginning. Really, since the news broke that Texas and Oklahoma look to break from the Big 12 and gain entry to the SEC, the major question on all fans' minds: when will this move be taking place? And now we seem to have an answer. 2024, which is exactly when so many fans had anticipated they would make the move. So I know Texas and Oklahoma fans have got to be very excited, but let's really talk about this. Because whenever Texas and Oklahoma announced that they were moving from the Big 12 to the SEC, there were a few questions that had to be answered. And especially for the Big 12, how are you going to deal with the financial loss that comes with losing those two teams? Now, I know the Big 12 negotiated a TV deal that pays the teams very handsomely, and there's even reports that states they're being paid more than the previous deal, but to me that only makes sense. If you're going to renegotiate a deal, you're going to hope you're going to get paid more than the previous deal you had already negotiated. Even if Texas and Oklahoma aren't there, you would hope, as more people are watching, as the sport is growing, and as it's going on more streaming platforms, you would hope your further deals would be more lucrative. So when I saw that report that the Big 12 teams were still standing to make more money than they made during the previous deal when their two cash cows in Texas and Oklahoma were there, to me that was a lot of empty calories, because you would hope so. The question is, what would they have stood to make with this new negotiation if Texas and Oklahoma were still going to be in the league? Because we need to be very honest here. Those two teams were the cash cow in the Big 12. Those two teams were the teams that got the lion's share of views and revenue for the conference, and the Big 12 has got some awesome teams in it, but Texas and Oklahoma, from a value standpoint, stood at the top. And now they make a move to the SEC. And one thing we talked about during our inaugural episode of the SEC Connect, if you haven't checked it out, be sure to go over there and check it out. Myself, Chris Griffin, Jay with Unfair Sports, Nino's Corners, and Steven with Fanatic Perspective all come together on a weekly basis to talk about all things SEC. Love to have you over there. But one of the things we talked about on the inaugural episode is that whenever we look at the top 25 most valuable brands in college football now, once Oklahoma and Texas get to the SEC, half of them will be located in one conference. There's a Power 5 structure, and half of the most valuable brands in college football are going to be in one of those 5 conferences, which to me is absolutely mind-blowing. And it makes complete sense whenever Texas and Oklahoma are looking at the combined $100 million price tag that the Big 12 and these TV rights want them to pay to make the move from the Big 12 to the SEC. And Texas and Oklahoma are looking at that like it's chump change. Even though that's a substantial amount of money, you're going to make that back really quickly in the SEC. It might not be year one, but through a 3-year sample size, you're going to make more money than you would have made in the Big 12, and you're going to be able to cover the losses you just had to pay to get to the SEC. So it's a lucrative deal for Texas and Oklahoma. They stand to make a lot of money, as does the rest of the SEC. Now, the major question here is, what does the SEC look like once Texas and Oklahoma get there? How is this going to affect the seeding? And basically what I mean by that, what are the conferences in the SEC going to look like? Right now we have a East-West conference, but with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, something is going to have to shift, and I can't wait to see what that is. Now, the final thing I'll leave you with here today before we talk about it further tomorrow is further conference expansion within the Big 12. Because one of the things Brett Yormark talked about whenever he was talking about Texas and Oklahoma leaving is that they are still very interested in expanding the Big 12, which really piggybacks off of something I've said forever. This is not the end of conference expansion talks. Not even close. This is just the beginning. We are still in the infancy of this. And if you're the Big 12, you're very interested in adding more teams, especially when you're hearing all the drama going on with the Pac-12, where the Pac-12 may have overestimated how much they were worth whenever they were talking to all these teams saying this is what you could expect to make. Now that doesn't look like it's going to be a reality. And the question is, what are you going to do if you're the Big 12? You see an opportunity, and now the Pac-12 is talking to SMU, and reports are surfacing that teams aren't happy about that either. So if you're the Big 12, you could make a move, and we already know that there are 4 teams that they were very interested in reaching out to, being Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. And if they add in those 4 teams, I'm going to be interested. But a team such as Oregon, a team such as Washington, if you could get those teams in, I think you'd have to be over the moon, because you're adding in other huge brands. You're not going to be able to replace what Texas and Oklahoma gave you, but what you can do is continue adding intrigue into your conference. You can do that by adding in major brands. Now, personally, I thought the 4 teams they added were great. I think Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, and UCF going to a Power 5 level is going to be awesome for college football. But I'm a fairly easy person to please in college football. My bar is fairly low. If you just put on a football game, I'm probably going to be happy. So I don't speak for the average fan. But you get in Oregon, you get into Washington, well, all of a sudden the perception of the Big 12 really starts to shift. Because right now, I'm so excited to see what the Big 12 does, but I'm really excited to see what they continue to do in the future, especially if they have their mind on expansion. Because there are major moves to be made in college football, and the Big 12, well, they look to be able to make some big ones. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking about all this. Let me know the teams you think could be added into the Big 12 as they continue expanding. That's it. See ya.